Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing solo chess, where you capture your own pieces until only one remains. You can't capture more than 2 times with any single piece, and if there is a king on the board, it must be the final piece. There is also a speedrun.com leaderboard that I will submit a run to at the end of this video. Let's dive in. Alright, obviously the first couple of puzzles are pretty straightforward. We have a king on the board, so he has to be the final piece, so I'll take the king and capture the bishop. With that, we solve the problem. No king on the board means it doesn't matter. We can take with the queen, or we can take with the bishop. Both of them would solve the problem. Again, we have a king, so he has to be the one to capture. Now we have 3 pieces on the board, and I did play around with this a little bit before making the video, and the best strategy that I have found is just look for where all of the pieces intersect. So for example, if I take this queen and capture the bishop, I end up with an unsolvable problem where the queen can't see the rook, and the rook can't see the queen. But if I look at where all of these pieces intersect, the problem becomes pretty straightforward. I just go to that square with all of the pieces. It becomes a little more involved later down the line, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So for example, the queen and the knight both see the pawn, so the easiest way to do this is take the queen to the pawn and then take the knight to the queen. This one is also pretty straightforward. 2 bishops looking at the queen, the rook also looks at the queen, so we just take everybody one by one and capture on that square. This one's a little bit different. We have the king, so he has to be the final capture, so ignoring him for just a moment, we see the queen and the knight both look at the bishop, so they're both looking at the bishop. Luckily also the king sees the bishop, so we can capture on that square, and then the final capture will be the king taking the knight. We're almost done with level 3. There are 10 levels in total, each with 3 puzzles, and to submit a run to the leaderboard, you do have to solve all of them. You can get one wrong and then reset the puzzle, but you do have to ultimately solve it, or else it just won't let you move on. So again, we have one where everybody's looking at this queen on a5. We'll take with the bishop, we'll take with the queen, we'll take with the bishop, and move on. Okay, everybody's pretty spread out here, but f8 seems to be the most common one, so we're just gonna grab everybody and take on f8. These do get harder kind of quickly as you move along. Okay, the king has to be the last capture. This queen is estranged from h6, which is the common factor for all of these pieces, by 1 capture, so we'll start with the queen. Now if we move her again, you're not allowed to capture with the same piece more than twice. So this queen has now captured once, we'll do that in a different color, like this, and captured again. So she turns into one of black's pieces to signify that you're not allowed to move her anymore, but we can finish off the captures on that piece anyways. Kind of similar to the last problem, we'll do a double capture with the queen, double capture with the king, and that concludes the problem. Now obviously if your king turns dark and there are still pieces on the board, that's pretty much just a failed problem. There's no way out of that, so you'd have to restart. Okay, everybody here is looking at g4. That seems pretty self-explanatory, so we'll do all those captures. Everybody here is looking at g7, so we'll go straight to g7. And honestly, this is, in my opinion, a pretty good way of improving your board vision. Okay, where's the common one here? Oh, it's this, and then we need to chain upwards. Interesting. So we'll do a double take with the queen. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, hold on a second. That was almost right. Let's reset that. We'll reset this. Oh, not reset the whole game. Oops, reset the puzzle. Oh wait, no, that was right. I just got confused. I thought I was gonna have to walk up with a piece, but actually I'm gonna walk down with the king. So I was on the right track. Everybody takes on c4, and then the king comes down to meet those pieces. All right, a4 seems to be the pretty obvious move here. The question is, how on earth do I integrate this rook? I guess it would have to be a capture with the bishop and then back. So we'll go double with the knight to ca4. We'll go in with the queen, 1 capture with this bishop, 1 capture with the other, and then this is the bishop's last capture on a4 before it turns dark. But with that, we do solve the puzzle. So if you look over here, you can see we did get one wrong, but it did allow us to advance, and you can still submit a run to speedrun.com, because ultimately you do have to get that check mark for it to even allow you to move on to the next puzzle. Okay, the knights are easily the most frustrating ones, but luckily they have a very unique capturing pattern, so it's not hard to link them together. So everybody here is pretty obviously looking at g4. We'll jump over to g4, capture with the rooks, and move forward. f6 seems to be a point of interest here. c4 does as well. The question is, which one is correct? Oh, actually no, f1 is probably the right point of interest, because you can see we have the most number of pieces here looking at f1, and all of these other pieces, we'll give them a different color, are more so extraneous and just need to find their way into the system. So we'll bring the rook into the system, we'll bring the bishop into the system, and then with 2 double captures, we can actually solve the problem on f1. Okay, this is a cloud of pieces. I'm going to make the bold assumption that d8 is the conclusive square, so I'll start with this capture, double capture with the rook, and then we'll bring the king into the game as well. This one is either going to be c5 or a6. Just seems to be a very common point for a lot of these pieces. a6 seems to be the most populated one, so I'm going to assume this is the first capture. There's only 1 capture left for this knight, but we can sort of just pile everybody onto a6 and conclude that puzzle. We're almost done with level 7, so unless these get significantly harder in the near future, I think we're doing pretty comfortably here. Oh, this one's kind of strange. This b4 bishop is kind of the odd man out. It's not hard to get this rook to a2. It's not hard to get this rook to the same square by by means of the other rook. This bishop is already looking at a2. This rook has to make a pit stop for the h2 pawn before coming back, and the bishop is the odd one out, but we can actually move the knight out of the way first and get one of those captures off of our back. So we'll go ahead and capture like so, take, bring this rook out to capture the extraneous pawn, and then recapture with the bishop to solve the problem. Okay, that concludes level 7. We're now at level 8. I'll be honest, I did prepare a little bit for this video, but I've never been past level 7. So we're now in new territory even for me, and I don't know if we're gonna have to come up with some new strategies. This one also looks pretty intuitive. E3 seems to be the common point for basically all of these pieces, so we'll just drag them inward. To be honest, that was easier than the last puzzle, but yeah, it's when you start getting the knights involved that it starts to get a little bit tricky. C4 here seems pretty obvious, so we'll grab all of these pieces and drag them to C4. Now, I have to be honest, solo chess is something that I've never heard of, and this isn't something that I ever like trained or anything to get better at, so I can't really speak to its value in terms of improving your actual gameplay, but I will say I think my board vision kicks in. Now, for me, it's vice versa. I am already decently seasoned chess player, so I come into this game and I can recognize that having a certain level of board vision helps with this game quite a bit. Board vision meaning you can look at a chessboard and relatively quickly figure out what moves are available and what moves are not. So you can sort of see the relationship between the pieces without too much struggle. You can pretty much just take a quick glance and get a really good idea of what exactly is going on. What I can't say I know is whether or not this is good for beginners who struggle with board vision or need a little bit of help with their board vision. I'd assume it's to some extent helpful, but I will also say you will never get this position in a real game of chess. I guess you could make the argument that it's sort of like weight training. You will never have to lift, well, probably, you know, a 300-pound item, but the day that you have to do lifting of some kind to help somebody move out, you will be in a better spot if you can lift 300 pounds and it comes time to move a heavy box. So that analogy is all to say that if you can solve this and you can see the connection between all of these pieces and then you go and play a real game of chess, you probably won't struggle all that much with a normal game, which has many more normal features than solo chess does. Ooh, that's, I think, the most number of queens we've had so far. This is fun. Yeah, F1 seems to be the pretty clear, I mean, you literally have 1, 2, 3 batteries looking at it. You've got this nice little, whoop, that is not how the knight moves. You've got this nice little knight chain looking at it as well. And then somebody, either this queen or this bishop, can come and pick up this knight before dropping back to F1. And we only have 2 puzzles left. This has gone by relatively quickly. Let's go ahead and start with this. I think that's the obvious one. And considering we turned this piece dark on the point of interest, it's not moving from there ever again. So it's just going to get captured. We don't really care that it can't move again. I guess we'll do the same thing. Oh, we can't do the same thing with the queen. Interesting. We can if we take with the bishop first, though. And then everybody else just sort of dog piles onto F1. And we have 1 puzzle left to solve. This is supposedly the hardest puzzle. I'm going to assume, wait, actually, I don't know which one of these two is the point of interest. I'm assuming it's C2. Actually, no. No, it can't be. It has to be D2. Because what else do you do with this bishop besides capture it with the rook and then come back down to D2? At which point you have 2 captures under your belt. So you can't move that rook ever again. So it has to be this first. Let's throw this in the mix. We'll bring this rook down with its first capture. We'll bring the knight over, bring in the bishop, bring in the rook. And with that, we solve all of the solo chess puzzles. We get a little victory, challenge complete message. All right, I'd say that's a pretty good warm-up. Now, I'm going to try and do an actual run. Just for reference, if we go to speedrun.com, you can see that the top time is 1 minute 49 seconds, and the 16th highest time is 10 minutes and 2 seconds. So there's a very large spread. It would be nice to get at least top 10. We'd have to do it in under 5 minutes. I don't think that should be terribly difficult. Not to mention, these runs were submitted a couple of years ago. It seems the player base to some extent has died down. Maybe when we post this video, a couple of you guys will go out and smack together a couple of sub 5 runs and we can reinvigorate this leaderboard. But anyways, back to solo chess. I couldn't find a way to overlay a live split tab, so I'm just going to do it on my phone. So the number I say at the end might be slightly different from what the live split that I overlay says, because the live split will actually be accurate. Me hitting my phone will not be. But anyways, I think I'm ready to go. I'm going to go silent for this. All right, let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, and that concludes the run. My phone says 4 minutes and 49 seconds, 4 minutes and 50 seconds. I have no idea what the actual live split timer would say, but that is the end of my run. I'm kind of happy with that time. I feel like I could have been a little more efficient. Some of the things that I picked up on that might help you guys if you guys want to submit a run is that if you do see a king, or rather, when you get a puzzle, the first thing you should do is see if there's a king anywhere. If there isn't a king, the next thing you should do is see if there are any batteries. If there is a king, obviously the point of interest has to be within 2 moves distance from that king. So look for where the highest number of pieces intersect around the king. And if there isn't a king, usually there's batteries. So look for where the most number of batteries overlap. There might be a piece in the way. Try to find a way to get that piece out of the way, and suddenly the puzzle sort of falls into place. But anyways, yeah, that is solo chess. If you guys did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing. If you guys do want to submit a run, I highly recommend you do. Hopefully my run will already be up by the time this video goes out. If not, then I will patiently wait for approval. I will see you guys in the next one.